Hello, someone in here?
Inside this garage, Morgan's warriors look for anyone who might need help.
Well, the stark reality of it was we're actually checking to see if anybody was in distress.
Or deceased, right? So people are going into spaces like this using, and if they're alone and they overdose, who's going to find them?
That's Melissa and George Robinson.
So you're going to come through the back and we'll meet you over here.
Melissa co-founded the group named for her cousin Morgan Harris, one of 4 vulnerable women killed by Jeremy Skibicki in 2022.
Yeah, we'll go down this side of Maine.
Now, the group is dedicated to helping the vulnerable, including those using the city's shelter system. Skibicki was found guilty of first-degree murder last July for the deaths of Harris, Mercedes Myron, Rebecca Contois, and an unknown victim who has since been identified as Ashley Shingoose. During the trial, court heard Skibicki targeted vulnerable women who frequented homeless shelters. He told police he first met Harris at a shelter and met Myron and Shingoose in the areas near them. Skibicki said he used shelters for meals. In court, a shelter worker testified Skibicki once told him he had his own place, he was just there to stalk his victims.
You know, we don't judge anyone. We don't know their backstory.
While May marks 1 year since the start of Skibicki's trial, Melissa says there still aren't enough safe places for vulnerable women. She wants to see emergency shelters in several neighborhoods exclusively for women.
I feel like my cousin may still be around, you know, right now, if that option was there. You know, she was preyed upon. Those other women were preyed upon. You know, how many more men out there are thinking that same thing?
Hearing in court Skibicki targeted vulnerable women, CBC wanted to find out whether or not this case has led to any changes when it comes to how shelters operate or safety protocols. Now, I reached out to Siloam Mission, the Salvation Army, Main Street Project, and Nadina Waymack, our relative's place. Only Nadina Waymac's executive director, Frank Parks, met me for an interview.
It'll be a difficult subject for a long time for our community to speak about, because we still, you know, are dealing every day with the tragedy of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Nadina Waymack started as a pop-up shelter with several partners running it. Video evidence from 2022 inside 190 Disraeli shows Harris with Skibicki. It was here Skibicki made that chilling comment to a worker. Parks took on his role less than 2 years ago. He says now it's one organization, which helps streamline communication.
We can communicate from somebody who sees a problem, you know, out in the common space, and then get that information up into, you know, leadership and people that can actually act on that information and investigate it and report it. So that has changed for sure.
He says the Indigenous-led shelter works to hire Indigenous people and those with lived experience, giving them a deep understanding of the national crisis of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
We kind of internalize it here because of our beliefs and our backgrounds and our shared experiences, and so we're well aware that, you know, there are predators out there, and there are people that are exploiting women and girls.
A provincial spokesperson says the province increased funding rates for shelters, transitional housing services, and homeless outreach mentors in October 2022. Adding the increase included a 15% top-up for safety and security measures. As for the other 3 shelters I reached out to, while they wouldn't do an interview, I received a statement from shelter providers through End Homelessness Winnipeg. It says in part that because of the sensitive nature of shelter operations, they can't talk about specific security measures, but say they regularly review, update, and strengthen protocols. And in recent years, have improved coordination among shelters, and many shelters have enhanced gender-specific accommodations. We took our questions to Manitoba's Minister of Housing, Addictions and Homelessness. She says her office is focused on getting people into housing with wraparound supports. Bernadette Smith says there are housing units earmarked for women.
We know that homelessness is a real, challenge for a lot of folks in this province, and it puts them at a disadvantage, as we've, discovered with a lot of folks who are in shelter. They're unsafe at times.
As for Morgan's Warriors, their outreach work continues.
This is all about my cousin. This is about, her memory, her life, and, to give her that love.
So that helping other vulnerable women is now part of Morgan Harris's story. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.